All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Mark Harbert podcast. And man, I am so excited today for this episode. And I've really been waiting for this because I met this lady, I don't know, several months back. And we have a mutual friend in the Gets and who are great friends also. And I got connected with Adrienne Hill and I've just watched her over the last couple months and she's super positive. She's always a bright light on Facebook. You know, you see her, she's always smiling. You see her on video, she's always super positive. But she's built an amazing business using the power of summits. And we're certainly going to talk about that. But Adrienne, thanks for coming on today. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to dig in and kind of geek out about summits.
I know, right? It's like marketing stuff is like total geekery. I mean, for us that love this stuff, it's like we could talk about it for hours and just like never get bored of it.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Yes. Well, again, super excited to have you. So before we get started, definitely want to know a little bit about your story. Everybody's got a story of like how they got started. And it's always unique to hear everybody's unique story to what we do and eventually getting here doing what we do. So what's your story? Like, how'd you get going in this online marketing gig?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I spent 20 years in corporate America. I was a project manager managing multi-million-dollar launches for billion-dollar brands. So launching was my jam. That's what I did. Tons of products like consumer goods that you would find at, Target or Walmart. I made a lot of those products, everything from diapers to feminine care products. It was all like absorbent products, right? It's like not glamorous, but it is what it is.
But necessary.
But necessary. Right. Hey, everyone stocked up on toilet paper when the pandemic hit.
The whole COVID thing. Yeah.
So I had learned a lot about launching. But truth be told, I kind of wanted out of that career. I'm terrible at working for other people. I'm just I'm the worst employee. I'm the troublemaker. Like I can get some major work done, but I'm better working for myself. Let's put it that way. And the minute I hit 30 years old, I realized I don't want to work for other people. I would rather work for myself. But I knew absolutely nothing about starting a business. Right. But I knew that was really the only path to freedom. Now, layer on top of that, I really wanted to move back to the UP. So Michigan's Upper Peninsula, it's like in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous, but remote and a strange little place. And I really wanted to move back there, but there's zero jobs.
Yeah.
It's like a super isolated area. And so I realized like there's no high powered job I'm going to find in that area. If I'm going to move there, it's because I'm going to start my own business and figure out how to take care of myself. So I jumped into network marketing just to get my feet wet and start learning.
Yeah.
I did all the wrong things. I was horrible, right? Like I did all the things you're not supposed to do. But in doing so, I learned what not to do. And as I started learning what I should be doing, I started learning attraction marketing. I started filming all these like mini courses for my downline to try to help them out. Before I knew it, I had a massive collection of all these mini courses and I was like, oops, looks like I became a course creator, Yeah. Then I started moving into affiliate marketing and really started getting better at marketing in that space. And from there, I kind of pivoted into coaching where I realized my background in project management is really what makes me different than a lot of other people out there. And my background in launching, like knowing how
And I'm going to speak on that in just a moment because that's a very important point. When we
So, I mean, seeing how the big dogs launch is, it's eye opening. And so having that background is really what made me unique. And coaching was really more where I didn't know it when I first got started, but coaching is really where I belong. Like that's my jam. I'm kind of an integrator, if you will. Like I make things happen. I'm an action-oriented person. But all throughout that journey, I had always had little bits of success here and there. I was, quote, doing everything right and not making much money.
Yeah.
Right. So for anyone listening who can relate to that, I see you. I understand. It is so frustrating.
I feel
like,
your pain.
Oh my gosh. Well, and there was a part of me too that's like, what am I doing wrong? I'm an educated professional person. I should be able to figure this out. What am I doing wrong? Right. And so I had in my head that like, I don't need a coach. I'm a smart person. I should just be able to watch some YouTube videos and figure it out. Well, silliness, right? Actually, it was in that unhealthy obsession with thinking I was going to figure it out through free YouTube videos that I found Todd Lee Ray Getz,
Yeah.
They actually ended up being one of my first coaches and started me down a path where I really figured out what I was doing. So just to kind of set the stage, at the point where I launched what I call my signature program, I had been dabbling, setting up all the funnels, running all the challenges, doing all the master classes, all the things I could think of. And in 3 years, I earned $12,000. Like,
Yeah.
it was not great.
Wasn't working. Yeah.
No. And I'm thinking, I know all the things. Like, why is this not working for me? And the biggest part of the challenge was simply, it takes forever to grow an email list.
Yeah.
It takes forever to grow your social media followers. Like, it is a slow burn, and that slow burn was killing me.
Yeah. 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 And it's, you think about it too. And I think that's what makes your story great, because it's very similar to a lot of people that have had success too. They try a lot of different things, but it's kind of like, there's something about the successful entrepreneur that is insanely stubborn and refuses to quit until you figure it out.
Yes. Yes.
And I see that in you talking about that story,
Oh yeah. I was insanely stubborn. I started in network marketing in 2014. Like 2014 to 2018 was my network marketing phase. And I mean, I did pretty good. I was at one of the top ranks in that company, but I hated my life. That is not the place for me. Right.
Right.
So then 2018 is when I started pivoting and like, okay, I'm going to do something else. 2018 through 2020 is when I was riding the struggle bus in circles over and over.
Yeah.
And you're right. It was a level of stubborn.
Yeah.
That I just refused to fail.
Yeah. Well, and two, I think once you get a little bit of a taste or a little bit of a vision of what your life could be like when you're your own boss, you call your own shots, you get that little taste and it's like, it's so good. You just want more of it,
Yes.
It's kind of like the ultimate drug,
Yes. So I think through all the network marketing, the affiliate marketing, riding the struggle bus in circles, I think the biggest month I ever had was just over $2,000.
Yeah.
So it was enough to get a taste and to go, if I can make 2, I can make 20.
Right.
Right. Like, I just got to figure this out. But it was also not enough to take off those golden handcuffs I was wearing from that corporate job. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So now we're going to shift into like Adrienne's like core thing, before I ask you this, I'm going to tell this little story. Okay. And because this is several months ago, our mutual friend, Leah Getz, reached out to me and said, hey, I got a friend. She's a great gal. She's a super good friend. And she's doing a summit and she's looking for some speakers on these topics. And I definitely thought you would be a good one. And I'll be honest, my immediate thing was like, oh gosh, another one of those.
Not one of those.
I know, one of those summit things. And I was like, okay, I've been a part of these. I'm like, you know what? Because you're asking, Leah, you're a good friend. I'm going to do it. She's like, trust me, you're going to love this gal. She's awesome. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so when I, got the information and I started going through and I'm like, this one's a little different. Like there's something about this that's different. Like she's actually really organized. And that kind of struck me because every summit I've ever tried to be a part of, like it was just very disorganized. It wasn't like, and so that really struck me and I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty easy to go through and do. And anyway, that was what really struck me. And then to see how you did it all and put it together, I actually became like, I was like, summits are pretty cool if you do it the way Adrienne shows you how, So, yes,
and they can be super fun.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Like, how did you stumble into this strategy? Like, how did you really go after it?
Yeah. So it's interesting, those 3 years where I was riding the struggle bus, it was because I was trying to do what everyone else was telling me to do.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone else says, build a lead magnet. Everyone else says, set up a funnel. You're just one funnel away, all the things that we hear online. And so I was doing all the things that everyone else said. And I actually went to a retreat with Leah and a couple of other women, one of which is Nicolette Moore. If you don't know Nicolette.
Yes, I do know Nicolette. Yeah.
You do. Okay.
Yep.
And so I was meeting Nicolette for the first time, and she sat down with me and I didn't realize at the time, but she was taking me through her kind of signature clarity method. She helps people get clear on their businesses. And I was clear, but I wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Right. Like I thought I was, but I wasn't. And that's part of why I was riding the struggle bus. Well, she helped me to understand that what made me unique was my project management background in launching these huge launches.
Yeah.
And once she unlocked that in my mind, I sat back and I thought, okay, instead of listening to what everyone else says, what everyone else says to do and what everyone else says works, what would a project manager do?
Right.
How would a project manager launch a business?
Yeah.
Right. And I stumbled across this summit strategy. And at the time that I stumbled across it, my coach was Christina Giandali. She's amazing. I don't know if you know her, but anyone watching should. She's a wonderful human. And she was just putting together her signature program for the first time. I was actually the first client that she signed into her program, for the very first one, which is kind of funny. At the time on the enrollment call, I asked her the price and she didn't even know. She's like, I don't know. I'll make it up in the next week and let you know. It was so funny. Like she didn't even know.
I love
so
that.
Anyway,
I love that.
It was brand new. It was going through beta. It was just bare bones at the time. But I looked at what she was teaching. I caught the gist of it immediately. And I was like, this is my jam. Like I didn't know it, but it is, right? Yeah. And I just looked at the essence of what she was teaching and I thought, okay, how would I just project manage the shit out of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how would I just like do it my way? Yeah. Like, yeah, her way's cool. And I give her props for everything she taught, but like, how would I do it my way?
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And I just went crazy with it.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, I was planning a wedding. I got married in 2020. That's totally insane. But also we had been together for over 10 years and we didn't want to wait anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm planning a wedding and planning a summit simultaneously. I got married on August 29th of 2020. My summit started promoting on the 30th. Like the day after my wedding, my business launched. Who does that? Crazy people like me do that.
Who does that? Like nobody. Except Adrienne.
I did that. Yeah. It was nuts. It was nuts. So just to give you guys that frame of reference, remember 2018 through the day of my wedding in 2020. I was riding the struggle bus in circles. In 3 years, I brought in $12,208. Okay. That month that my first summit launched, I brought in $10,822.
That's awesome.
So for me to have my first $10,000 month immediately, I was like, oh.
You tapped into the gold, you know?
This is the thing. Well, and here's the other thing I loved about it. I'm a happy, bubbly, talkative, outgoing person. I love like chit-chatting like this. I'm not terribly introverted. But I hate social media. I'm just going to confess. I'm like my time is my most valuable resource.
Yeah. And
I hate feeling like I'm wasting time. And a lot of times, like, social media can just suck you in. And 4 hours later, you're like, what happened? I haven't eaten. Like,
right.
And so I just really wanted to stay away from social media. So what I loved about this strategy is that, I mean, you could essentially run a business and never use social media at all.
Yeah.
So for the introverts out there, for the people who struggle being consistent, right? For the people who just don't want to share their entire life on social media, or you don't want to be pumping money into ads 24/7, like there is another way.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. That's awesome.
And so for the first 2 years of my business, I didn't use social media at all because I didn't need to.
Yeah.
I started dabbling on TikTok recently just because to me, TikTok's fun.
Yeah.
And sure, I'll do things that are fun,
Yeah.
And with Repurpose.io, I can make it go everywhere all at once, which is like awesome. But outside of that, I really don't use social media because I don't need to.
Yeah.
And I like
it. Yeah. Well, and what I love about what you're sharing too is that, you tapped into your unique strength, something that, you already had, a background in, and you made it work for you, and that is such an important thing. And, which we have a mutual friend, Eddie Villa, Eddie, Eddie's amazing.
Yeah.
And Eddie, he's just such a great guy. but that's what he preaches about, really tapping into your strength and operating from that. And I think, I look at you and I think that same thing. You found your thing and you made it so good. And your project management background, now that you're talking about it, that's why it was so organized. Like, it was so on. And I even remember writing Leah and I'm like, wow, she's different. Like, she's doing this very differently. And I kind of like it. It's pretty cool,
Yeah.
And so, we may be talking at some point. I'm going to want to do one of those, but anyway,
for sure.
So, let's talk about this for a second. So, like, obviously you have clients and people you work with when you do summits. Like, what's kind of, if somebody wanted to do a summit and they just wanted to kind of start moving in that direction, like, what would be some of the steps you would start, moving them toward?
Yeah. So I have a program called the Skills to Scale, which is where I teach all of these things because it gives you all the skills that you need to scale to your first 6 figures in business.
Yeah.
Now I have a separate one called Structure to Scale. If you're already bigger and you are already earning 50,000 or more and you have a support team, I have a separate program for those people because they have different needs, right?
Yeah.
But when you're first getting started with this kind of strategy, you have to make sure that you're clear on what I call the business foundations. You have to know who you are, who you serve, what you stand for, who your ideal prospect is. And, in my mind, the ideal client, there's not just one, they live on a continuum, if you will.
Yeah.
So there's like a continuum of ideal clients. You at least have to know those basics, right?
Yeah. Right.
You have to have a really solid offer.
Yes.
Something that's capable of generating a 5-figure launch. Tons of people think they're going to have a 5-figure, 6-figure launch with like a tiny offer. And I'm like, no. Like, it doesn't. No, your monthly membership is not going to make you $1 million, right? Not unless you're Tony Robbins, then sure. Yeah. So you have to have your foundation set out. You have to have your offer figured out, your pricing, your structure of it. It doesn't even have to be created.
Yeah.
You just have to have the outline and the marketing for it.
Yeah.
Is really all you need.
Yeah.
And you need, in my opinion, some sort of a book to call funnel, some way that people can meet with you to see what you got.
Yeah.
If you have those things set up, you can run a summit.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's, I love what you said too about, just an outline. And I've been a course creator for, probably 10 years now. And every time I've ever done a workshop or a course or something in my audience, the first thing I do is I sit down, open the pad, and I outline the whole thing. Like, what am I going to talk about? And that's the place to start, The key that I would always caution people against doing that is don't always be in planning mode. Like, at some point you got to move into actually doing it, And I love what you said earlier about your coach and how you got on the phone with her. She's like, what's the price? I don't know yet. I'll let you know what I'm doing.
I'll let you know.
That is awesome. Like, I'm like, I'm the idea of like, jump out of the plane and figure out how the parachute works on the way down. Like, that's really
what I tell all my clients to do. If you have an outline of your offer, like, what's going to be in there. It doesn't exist yet, but you know what it's going to be. You know what the price is. And maybe you have the first few weeks of content are complete.
Yeah.
Just something to keep people busy. You sell it first.
Yes.
Create it second.
Yeah. Yep.
Because if you're not able to sell it, then there's no sense going to create it.
Yeah. I love that too.
You, there's nothing more motivating to make you go out and create when 10 people just bought it at $3,000 and you have $30,000 in the bank and you're going, I got to go make this now.
I don't want to give this all back.
Right. Looks like I'm making it. Right. And hey, talk about fire under your butt.
Yeah.
So sell it first, create it second.
Yeah. You bring up a great point because I remember this is probably 6-7 years ago. And I remember I had this idea for a course, and, my audience had really, I'd had a really great audience. And I'm like, I want to teach about, and I called my course the Entrepreneurial Journey. And it was really a mindset style course. It was all about how to think like a business owner and things like that. And I'm like, this is going to be the best course I've ever done. I'm so excited to do this. And I launch it and I'm like, my audience is going to love this. And it was a total flop. Like, it was like I normally would launch something and I'd get 200-300 people jumping on board on stuff easily. And I think I sold 26 of these. And the price point was very low, actually. I'm like,
and you're like,
this sucks. Oh, now I'm going to spend the next 5 weeks doing it. But I'm going to put everything I got into it. And some the people who went through it, they thought it was amazing.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And, even when you have those circumstances, that can always make a heck of a bonus to some other program that you have, right? Like,
I still use it today for bonuses. So
there you go. Like it's never a waste.
Yes, it's never a waste. And I love that you brought that up because I think that's important. Like, especially as entrepreneurs, like you're going to do things that are going to flop. There's things that you're going to do that are not always going to go right. But it's like, okay, well, that didn't work. I think there's so much great learning and things that flop just as much as when things go right.
Yeah.
And you really, if you start looking at it in that way, even when you have an expectation and that doesn't get met, you just have to keep plugging away.
You have to. To me, that falls in the category. I always tell my clients there are 4 key hurdles that every entrepreneur will face over and over and over again. And that's one of the 4. The first is always fear.
Yeah.
And you can encounter fear like 22,000 different ways, right? Like it never goes away. The second is always a willingness to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Time or money or both, right? A lot of people struggle with that. The third is personal leadership. I actually see at least 50% of people fail because they have no personal leadership.
Yeah.
They can't commit to themselves. They can't commit to business hours. They can't show up for themselves. They have no structure in their life. They're just like willy-nilly blowing in the breeze and then they fail, right?
Yeah.
And even if you make it past all 3 of those, the 4th one that almost gets you is the grit and resilience, that stubbornness that you have to persevere even when everything just goes to crap.
Yep. That is the one that I think can make all the others eventually at some point come to life. Even if you're sucking at all of those along the way, you have the perseverance and the grit, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
grit and perseverance is like the number one. If you have that, you can succeed as an entrepreneur, like hands down.
You can't see it here, but if you look, let me see if I can get it. See this?
Persistence.
Yes. I love that because I remind myself of that every single morning. Like,
I love that. That's your mantra.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, because that is really what it comes down to. Like, if you want to do this, you got to stick with it. There's no free lunch. But I'll tell you what, it is. You got to work hard. And, but I'll tell you, the payoff is huge. It really is.
Yeah.
And like you said at the beginning, you're not a good employee. Once you taste the freedom, you're not. Like, you're
not. No.
And I've often said too, and I've seen this around, but as entrepreneurs, we'll work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week.
Yes.
That's true.
Will we ever? My husband tells me all the time, he's like, you're a workaholic. What are you doing? And I'm like, but this is fun for me.
Yes.
Like it's fun. So then I just took that idea of like, how would I project manage the bejesus out of fill in the blank?
Yeah.
How would I project manage a summit? How would I project manage a challenge? How would I project manage a masterclass? And I just applied that to everything I did.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Now, the thing I've observed about summit traffic, that until you've hosted one yourself, you just have no idea.
Wow.
In terms of how it converts.
Yeah.
So I would say general social media traffic, 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Paid ads, 2 out of 10. Webinars or master classes, maybe 3 or 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Maybe a challenge or a workshop might get you like 5 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10 if you're really good.
Yeah.
Summit traffic, 9 out of 10.
Wow. That's awesome.
Every time. Like, it's crazy how, like, you have not felt hot traffic until you felt summit traffic.
Wow. All right. You've made me a believer.
So I pulled together some numbers for you. Can I share this?
Yes,
just because
absolutely.
I've evolved, right? Like, sure, making $10,000 in a month is exciting when you're brand new, but if you're further on, you're like, snooze fast, move on. Like, that is not exciting, right? But for a brand new person, it was. But I tweaked and I perfected and tweaked and perfected and tweaked and project managed the crap out of this.
Right.
So my first summit brought in $10,822. Of course, I was delighted. For the first time, I truly believed in myself.
Yeah.
My second summit, right? I improved it a little bit, tweaked some things. Second summit brought in 18,736.
Awesome.
That's great. Third summit, 20,362. And then I activated what I call a hyperdrive funnel. I came up with this very specific funnel that you can attach to summit traffic. Well, you can attach it to anything, but it's especially good for summit traffic.
Yeah.
So then with my fourth summit, 37,744. Wow. This is in a single month.
Yeah.
Okay. And my fifth summit, 77,405.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
In about a 2 week. These are all in about a 2 to 3 week time period.
That's awesome. That is crazy good.
So
you see the progression of how you just get a little bit better, a little bit better. See, this is why I like too, and I love that you're sharing this, because so many people think that, the jump to I've heard it referred to as the quantum leap idea. It's like you can go from one thing to like massive success, but you look at like your numbers that you just shared, and it's like a little bit more, getting better. And every time you keep tweaking it, making it better. And next thing you know, you're knocking it out of the park, doing more in 1 month than most people make in a year.
Yeah.
So that's powerful.
And that was really eye-opening. Then the interesting thing, so my fourth summit brought in 37,744.
Yeah.
This it wasn't a summit month. My summit months are always my biggest months of the year, always, because 10 out of 10 traffic or 9 out of 10 traffic, right? But it was a non-summit month. Right after the summit month exceeded my previous summit month. We brought in like 41,000 or something.
Wow.
And it wasn't even, we just had like average humdrum traffic coming in because all of our systems have now been streamlined so effectively.
Yeah.
That they, it just flows in. The hyperdrive is activated and it runs, just kind of nice. Awesome. And the part that I love about this, all this money that I'm talking about, this wasn't like me hustling in the DMs to make this happen. This was literally leads flow in. They book themselves onto my calendar proactively. I just show up for the call and close them.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I call the effortless enrollment funnel.
Yeah. I love that.
I was not manually hustling for any of this.
It's like spend 6 to 8 hours a day in Messenger, or, spend an hour or two a day, just looking at stuff and seeing how it's going. Yeah. And then wait for the calls, So
and it's funny. The way we run our calls, our when someone's on a sales call, they don't even know they're on a sales call. They feel like they're on a coaching call because we run them as coaching calls. Yeah. We follow very closely what Todd and Leah do.
Yeah.
Very smart people. Yeah. I learned a lot from them. And it's interesting because a lot of people, if they can close a sales call at 10 to 25%, like they're feeling really good.
Yeah.
Our team average, especially with summit traffic, is between 40 and 80% close.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's phenomenal.
It's just different traffic.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
You have not felt hot traffic until you felt summit traffic.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? It really is. I mean, when you, when the marketing is done properly, it really is. It's a whole different thing. But but the idea of a summit too is people are getting so much value. And I've seen this in certain ways too. I mean, what I love about the summit idea is there's so many things that have to happen before somebody's willing to buy. And with the summit, you're indoctrinating, you're giving value, you're doing all these things that, there's a lot of people will set up different automations and things to do these things. But in that type of a setting, you're doing all of that in one thing. It's like kind of all part of the one package.
Yeah. And the audience just has a blast.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, they have so much fun with it. We get tons of emails of people being like, this was the coolest thing I've ever done. I'm so excited that I said yes and clicked into that link. Like, if you ever get invited to a summit, go and actually participate. Like, they're super fun. Well, depending on who sets them up.
Yeah. That it really is. Like I'm telling you, like you really shifted my mind on them because I had been part of several of them and they just were never really that great. But yours was
Kind of like
very, very
Harbert.
different. So
Yeah.
no, that's amazing. So I love that, and I think that you definitely have some plenty to offer people. Where's some of the places people can find you? Your blog, or
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing. I use this summit strategy. I call it playing the long game and the short game at the same time.
Yeah.
So what I do, I take all the interviews from all these summits, all the trainings, everything that's submitted, and I hold on to them for about a year. And then I repurpose them as an episode of the Impactful Entrepreneur Show.
Yeah.
So I have, like, a lot of people struggle to keep a show running or a podcast running because it's hard to find like speakers. It's hard to find people to interview or talk with. I have show episodes lined up on average 18 to 24 months in advance.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's the thing. Like, if you're constantly creating content, you're never at a loss. And the fact, what makes podcasts so great too is kind of what we're doing here, interviewing, talking, discussion. Yeah. But with the summit idea, that's what you're doing. You're interviewing people. I mean, I can see how that can be such a great way to have tons of content for so long.
So the Impactful Entrepreneur Show, it's on YouTube. It's on all the podcast platforms. I have a blog for it. It's basically just like old interviews from summits. I mean, they're all super high value. I just purposely hold on to them to make sure that the people who bought the VIP tickets in the summit, they get it hot off the press. Everyone else has to wait.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so the fun thing is, because I use that to feed my show, then what I do, any show episode, I slice it and dice it 20, 30 different ways. And that becomes all my social media content.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So because of that, I host 2 summits a year. Well, 2 big ones, 2 small ones. Yeah. So anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year, I create content. That's it.
It's amazing.
And so now I've systematized my content creation.
Yeah.
Because I'm just slicing and dicing the summits. I've launched a show by repurposing the summits. Right. And I only create content anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year because everything revolves around the summits. So the same strategy that grows my email list, sends in floods of clients, fills all of my workshops, challenges, masterclasses, right? Because I have like a huge audience in my email list now. Yeah. It feeds my show and it feeds my social media.
Wow.
All with one strategy.
Yeah. See, that's phenomenal. I mean, like, because we know the internet runs on content. I mean, you got to be putting something out there, but when you can kind of get it all together and work it all together, I mean, it really makes it so much more easier to produce, and you're not sitting there having to think through every day, like, okay, what am I going to make a video about today? Or what am I going to do about this today? It just makes it so much more seamless. So I love that idea.
Yeah.
With the summit. So that's awesome. So they definitely check out your podcast and get on that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Impactful Entrepreneur, is that what it was?
The Impactful Entrepreneur Show. Yep.
I love it.
You can find me on YouTube. I think I'm just there under Adrienne Hill. Yeah. I should maybe rebrand it to the Impactful Entrepreneur Show, but whatever. It's my name. It is what it is. And it's so funny because so many people get so hung up over how many social media followers they have.
Yeah.
At the point when I made my first 6 figures, I had less than 200 followers. And we're scaling to 500,000 now, and I still have less than 2,000. Like,
yeah, it is the biggest. What you're saying right now to me is the biggest misconception people have when they do online marketing is they look at people's followers, subscribers, list size, all that, and they think that equals money. And it really doesn't. Like, it doesn't. I mean, I know people that make multiple 6 figures on a very tiny email list. They have a fervent audience. They know what their audience is and how it is. So, but I love that you bring that up because I think that's super important that people know that views, all that stuff means nothing. It's about communicating value, making periodic offers, things like that really bring in the income.
Yeah.
So,
and honestly, with every summit that I host, I add about 1,000 hot people to my email list. So it's not cold traffic. I mean, this is like 9 out of 10 traffic, right? So I add about 1,000 people per summit. And then, of course, we went through the money side of that as well. Now, the fun thing about this, it was great for launching. I mean, I on my beta program, I brought in 6 figures in 6 months. Because once I had that hot summit audience, then, and I had a little bit of cash in my pocket, right? Then I just repeated some webinars, some challenges, some activities, some workshops, right? And I spent a little bit on ads, but it was like just a tiny bit, right? Just to supplement a little bit here and there. So for almost no ad spend at all, a beta launch on my program made 6 figures in 6 months, right? Which was really great. I launched another program this past year off the back of a summit. Same thing again, 6 figures in 6 months, right? Now, the great thing as we're scaling now, so it's a great strategy for launching. But now as I'm scaling and I'm looking for more and more leverage, more and more free time, because my husband has health issues, I want to be hanging out with him. I don't want to be working all the time, right? So as we work on scaling, the nice thing about summits, 90% of the work can be outsourced or delegated to your support team, or you can hire it out if you want, whatever. All you really need to do as the host is do the interviews, because of course you want your face on the screen with the person you're talking to. Everything else can be delegated. So it's the hottest traffic you can find, and 90% of the work can be delegated.
Well, and I think too, once you've done it several times, you learn to templatize things. Like I have, I mean, it's like, you know, we were talking right before we came on too about like, we don't want to do anything unless we know there's a path to automating or leveraging it in some way. I mean, I have just tons of campaigns where, you know, like if I'm doing a live training, you know, if I'm just going to invite people out to a live training, that whole thing is templatized. Like all I gotta do is plug in a few details and that's it. Like, then
plug in the dates, hit play.
That's it. Publish and it's ready to go. Because I don't want to be writing emails like right up to the time of a training or all that stuff. When you have it all set up, it's super easy to do. It's a little work up front getting it going, but you know, so I love that. And I think that is such a great thing. And I think, you know, one of the things I learned a couple of years ago, and I share this story quite frequently, but I went to an event with Tanya Eliza. I don't know if you know who Tanya is. Tanya, she put on an event and she had invited me to come out and speak at it. And I get there and there's probably 50 people there. 95% of them are women. And I'm there and I'm going through and I'm listening to all the speakers and I'm like, holy cow. Like these women are the most organized people I've ever seen. Like I need to hire more women. What am I doing? Like I need more women working for me. Like they're amazing. Like,
that's awesome.
And I was just like, and I honestly kind of went through this thing because I'm fairly organized, but I'm certainly not to the level my wife is. My wife is like, man, she is like the queen of organization. And so I don't know if it's something you ladies have that makes you so good at organizing. It might be, I don't know, but I just love how you organized what you did. So
maybe our brains are spaghetti. It's like every thought links to some other thought that's entangled with some other thought. I don't know.
Then it goes to, you know, and then it connects here and it gets done, you know, so.
I won't do anything in my business unless I can see a future pathway where it's streamlined and systematized and leveraged.
Yes.
If someone shows me a strategy that I can't streamline, systematize, and leverage, I just say, no, thank you.
And that is really what it comes down to. You know, I'm the same way. Like, I don't want to, like, I want to be off with my family doing something that I love, that I enjoy, and know that, you know, I can have sales continue to come in or something is being, you know, done while I'm away. And that's the kind of business I think everybody wants. Sometimes they just don't know how to get there, you know?
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I love most about like streamlining, systematizing, turning things into templates, like that's, I mean, talk about shortening your learning curve, right?
Yeah.
So for the clients we work with who are wanting to learn how to host summits, I give them my OCD level plan, of course, right? I give them my template, and quite a few of them have come back to me, almost every single one actually, and said, I had 3 or 4 or 5 speakers say, I've never been in an event this good. Like, how did you learn how to do this? Right. And it's like, imagine having your very first one you ever do. Have people give you that kind of compliment.
Yeah.
right? Because then what happens, and I mean, it happened with us and with
Yeah.
Eddie and with Leah, like you end up making friends with all the people that you interview.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of it just naturally
Yeah.
happens.
Yep.
Next thing you know, you're speaking on each other's stuff, you're
Yeah.
promoting each other's stuff when
Yeah.
someone's launching, and all of a sudden you have this big network
Yeah.
of people around you. You're not a solo entrepreneur anymore.
Right.
You got some friends. You got a crew, you know.
And
You
that
got people.
you're bringing up a great thing that I don't think a lot of people really know or really comprehend a lot, but a lot of the success that people, especially the big leaders you see out there in whatever niche they're in online marketing, it's the network that they've built. It is a huge part of, this is why I tell people, like when you have an opportunity to go to like a live event, if you ain't getting your butt in the seat and going and getting out there and getting to meet people and, have lunch, get a beer or something, you are really, really missing out. Like it is. And it's not even just that. I mean, like you and I, we've never met face to face. I know we will at some point, I'm sure.
Some point, yeah.
But it's like, it really is just about connecting, learning, help bring value to each other's audience. And when you have a cool thing that you think their audience can benefit from, they can promote it, and it's like, that's how it works. And so, I think that's just a great point that you're bringing up. So,
yeah, you have an instant network of friends. You start getting invited to speak because you've invited tons of other people to speak.
Right.
You start getting invited to speak.
Yep.
So for the person who's launching for the first time, it's a great way to build credibility, build authority,
Absolutely.
right? But if you're further along and you're scaling, it's a lot easier to scale when you're networked with a whole bunch of really cool, successful people who are on par with where you're at.
Absolutely.
Makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely. Huge. Well, Adrienne, this has been such an insightful conversation. I've loved talking about it. And you and I are definitely going to talk because I think I'm going to do something soon.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for the viewers watching, we do teach people how to host their own, of course.
Yeah.
But we recognize there's a lot of people that are like, I totally want to do this, but I don't want to do this. Yeah. Like, I want someone else to do it for me. We do actually have a team that will execute for you.
That's awesome.
If you're interested and you just don't want to do it yourself, like that's okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's okay. Like, I think that's such a good way to do it, but that's awesome. And I'm so any final words for people that are out there that are working hard to make this happen?
I would just say you can, with this kind of like hidden little known strategy, you can launch and scale without any social media, without any paid ads, and in a way where 90% of the work can be delegated. And it's the hottest traffic you've ever seen.
Yeah. Hey.
I mean, in a nutshell, that's what I'd say about it.
Yeah, she's a believer. You can see. she's seen it. So, yeah. Absolutely. Well, Adrienne, it's been a pleasure having you out here, and thanks for coming on. And I hope you guys listening have really gotten value here, because there are some major nuggets in here for you. And I think the biggest thing that you should take away from this episode with Adrienne is really listen to what she said at the beginning. She tried and tried and tried, and she tapped into really what her strength was. And now look where things are going for you. And that is important. And so if you need somebody to help you tap into your strength, find a trusted person that you trust to help you figure that out. Because I'll tell you, coaching is, I believe, one of the best things you can do. I have a coach that I work with. I'm sure you have a coach too, Adrienne. We all have coaches. Yeah. I mean, it really is like absolutely multiple. There's people I reach out to. It's like, I have a Facebook ads coach. Hey, if I need to know something about Facebook, hey, I want to buy an hour of your time. Let's connect. Like, I want to pick your brain. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so you learn to kind of find out who's a good coach on what and go to them. But anyway, so appreciate you coming out. Thanks so much. You're amazing. And make sure you guys get with Adrienne, check her out, and connect with her. She's a phenomenal person, and she's got great value to share. So thanks, Adrienne, for coming out. You guys have a blessed one, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.